The United Nations has marked the sentencing as an important moment for victims of the deadly crackdown on protests that ended Hasina's 15-year rule. But it says it regrets the death penalty, which the UN opposes in all circumstances. UN Rights Chief Volker Turk said in a statement he hopes Bangladesh continues on a path to national reconciliation. He added this includes ensuring that violations and abuses are never repeated. The 2024 protests were triggered by a controversial job quota system that was said to favor supporters of Hasina's party. It quickly escalated into a nationwide movement against years of alleged human rights violations, disappearances, and unlawful killings under Hasina's rule. Well, Professor Greg Barton is chair in Global Islamic Politics at the Alfred Deakin Institute at Deakin University. Professor Barton, appreciate you joining us on the show this morning. So the question I have is, what now for the interim government and Muhammad Yunus? They obviously would want to focus on running the country and organizing the upcoming elections. But do you think they'll be allowed to?
I think they can pull off elections in February, but at this stage they're talking about the Awami League, Sheikh Hasina's party, the oldest party in Bangladesh and one of the two giant parties, not being allowed to contest. So that leaves a large portion of Bangladesh's voters out in the cold without a party to support. I think that's very high risk. And now adding the death penalty to Sheikh Hasina, even though it's unlikely to ever be carried out, ups the emotional temper. It risks violence on both sides of politics, both from her supporters and from those who are critical of her. I think it's very likely that Bangladesh will endure months of violence that'll make holding the February elections difficult. I also think it's likely the economy won't recover as fast as we all hope in terms of building trust. A third of loans are non-performing at the moment. That's really a question of trust. We've seen serious violence the last few days. I'm afraid that this will continue.
Okay, quite a lot of ground to cover there, but I wanted to focus on the Awami League and Sheikh Hasina at the moment. Do you foresee perhaps a Supreme Court appeal, or do you feel that she's going to continue to do what she's been doing from India?
Well, I don't think she's going to be leaving India unless she can go to safe exile in a third country. It's entirely possible they can appeal grounds of the sentencing. The whole trial occurred in a political context. The evidence, nevertheless, is pretty damning. I think what ups the stakes is this death penalty. Had she simply been given a long prison sentence in absentia, perhaps there would be less grounds for her contesting. The concern, bless, is what happens in the court process and what happens on the streets. Do her followers feel they have no choice but to go all out? The exiled leaders and even the resident members of the Awami League have been very bellicose in their statements. So the risk is there of major violence igniting, and certainly to the point where elections can't be held or the results of the elections are not received. And it's certainly hard to see how confidence in the economy can come back, and therefore that the economic health that Bangladesh previously can come back.
Well, Professor Barton, to your point earlier about exclusion in terms of the elections, the Awami League, we know, has been banned for now. You basically raised this point that this is probably not a good idea because it would question the legitimacy of the vote. So is there a possible middle ground as well? I mean, one idea that came to mind is perhaps banning Hasina and her top officials, but perhaps letting the party register and for other party officials to run.
Yeah, that would seem like a reasonable middle ground. I mean, a lot of people are not going to be happy with that, but it might be the least risky option. Bear in mind that there's been increasing sectarian, including violent extremism in Bangladesh, and that Islamist parties that may support violence have tended to side with the opposition against the Awami League, so that may add more fuel to the fire from their point of view. Some people in Bangladesh, of course, are pointing the finger at Pakistan and saying that that sort of orchestrated these support. So, I mean, these are all accusations, and it's really hard to verify to what extent they should be taken seriously, but they'll be at play in the February election, and the February election campaign goes ahead. So, yes, a compromise that allows the Awami League to contest the elections, but without the leadership that's been indicted in these crimes, would seem like a reasonable out. Whether there's the appetite on the part of the interim government to take that's another question.
Professor Muhammad Yunus at this point would be very conscious of the faltering economy, which you've mentioned a couple of times at least. Inflation is up, wages and jobs are down. Its garment industry, a focal point for the economy's struggles. I'm wondering how much latitude is Yunus going to get, from this verdict as the country, I suppose, approaches, to elections in February?
I think the next few days and certainly the next few months up until the February nominated time ahead of Ramadan for the election is going to be critically important for Muhammad Yunus. He is popular. He has broad respect, but he's on a tightrope. I mean, if he comes out too strongly against the verdict, people will turn on him. If he hangs on stubbornly and refuses to allow the Awami League in any form to contest the elections, that's very high risk as well. And the economy, it's really hard to be optimistic. When USA closed, Bangladesh was a major recipient of USA support. That's gone completely. Of course, there's 1 million Rohingya plus refugees in Cox's Bazar that Bangladesh has, to be fair, generously accommodating, but now without those aid support. The economy, as you said, the textile industry, second in the world, but battered by American trade tariffs, and just now facing a lack of confidence in financing. So none of that's going to come around quickly. It all depends on confidence and trust. And therefore, the key now is to avoid protests and violent protests, particularly on the streets, and to give everyone a sense that Bangladesh is finding its way through. No one expects it to be quick or easy without problems, but people will be watching and waiting to see what happens.
Professor, we know that Bangladesh wants India to extradite the former premier. It's asked so apparently a number of times for over a year now. So far, Delhi has resisted. I'm wondering, why is India willing to risk ties for her? She's a former ally, we know that, but isn't she still just one individual versus, bilateral ties between two, big nations?
Well, those bilateral ties, you're right, they're very important, and New Delhi has said that, including in recent days. It's not backing away from that. I think to a large extent, to make sense of this, we need to understand Indian politics. So there are reasons domestically within Indian politics why it would be seen as a sign of weakness and betrayal for somebody who was regarded as a close friend of India, the former leader of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina. I think also now that she would be going at least nominally to face death, it would be so much harder for India to go ahead with this. But it does place more pressure on them. Possibly exile to a third country could be a face-saving move that allows tensions between New Delhi and Dhaka to de-escalate. But I can't see New Delhi simply folding and sending her back to Bangladesh.
Understood. Professor, thank you so much. We have to leave it there for now. Professor Greg Barton is chair in Global Islamic Politics at Deakin University.